I'm interested in the human body, biomechanics, athleticism, how to improve somebody's physical health, physical strength, physical performance, how to improve somebody's moving ability. But the more I look into this stuff, the more I realize there are certain laws which are fundamental to how we are as human beings, our structure. There are certain systems that are at play. Even though we want to ignore those systems, we are the way we are, our limb proportions, the way we are supposed to move, the way our body has moved for thousands of years. There's a certain systemic pattern to it all. And the more I think about that, the more I think about the whole of Mother Nature, the whole of the earth. There's these systems which are at play, whether we see it or not, whether we think it's working in mysterious ways. Science is uncovering a lot of these ideas, and we're trying to understand more and more. We're understanding how these systems work. The sun hits the earth, the plants catch that energy, catch some carbon dioxide, catch some water, they grow. An animal comes along, eats that plant. Something else eats that animal. All animals die, return all those nutrients, all that, fertilize the earth. The next plant grows, and it's like a circle of life, if you will. There's a certain pattern that kind of keeps reoccurring. You know, we live, let's say, 70 to 100 years on average. And so we think, you know, our life is very long, and we think that this is what's happening. But in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of the planet, how long the planet's been around, the solar systems, we are like a decimal point. We're like, our lifetime is so small. There are patterns that are way, way, way bigger than us, more important than us. We're basically insignificant stardust. We're like a speck, but we're very organized, and this organization matters. And so when we're trying to apply some of these ideas to the barbell, something so insignificant as the damn barbell, how to improve our moving ability, squatting, deadlifting, running, whatever the case might be, we need to understand there are systems at play here that have been created or perfected over thousands of years. So what are we? You know, deep question. What are we? What are we supposed to be good at? We are walkers. Okay, we like to walk. Okay, we have evolved away from being these things that can hold lots of weight, or like Neanderthals. Like, our structure has changed, our jawlines have decreased compared to other versions of humans. You know, our skulls has gone bigger, the brain's gone bigger, the brain structure has changed, our hands have changed. We are more kind of cerebral, less physical in a sense, but we're still endurance type of athletes. And so I'm thinking about all these kind of grand systems. I'm thinking about how the earth works. You can't make that plant not use carbon dioxide. Like, you can intervene, but there are some fundamental laws which can't be ignored. And so as I'm kind of thinking about all of this stuff that I've learned, this is really interesting how I'm focusing on a very small, specialized part of human movement. And I'm seeing, you know, signs of bigger, major, you know, far-reaching systems which are evident in what I'm doing in a small speck of, you know, specialized areas, what I'm concerned with: powerlifting, bodybuilding, you know, Olympic weightlifting, whatever this thing that I'm interested in, that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm getting this feel that there are systems that I can't ignore. It's funny, you know, I love squatting and I want to do squatting, but there are certain things I have to do in order for me to get good at squatting. I've hit my head on this over and over again. In order for you to get good at knee bending or squatting, you need to get also as good in hip bending. I'm using very simple terms, but I know we like to get overly focused and zoomed into some of these ideas. But, you know, if you want to have a really good knee bend, i.e. squat, you also need to have a really good hip bend, i.e. deadlift, in order for the balance to occur between those two joints. And so over and over again, I get reminded by these patterns, these laws. So I'm doing sumo deadlifts. I've done it for maybe a week now, every single day, you know, greasing the groove, teaching my body how to be comfortable in those wider stance positions, teaching myself how to hip hinge in that wide stance position. And every time I do that, I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable with the squat. But the more I do the squat, the more comfortable I get in a narrow stance deadlift. So deadlifting versions help my squat. Squatting and its versions get me better in the deadlift. It's like a circle of life. Sun, carbon dioxide, water makes the plant grow. An animal comes, eats the plant. The animal dies, fertilizes the plant, the future plants, and off you go, over and over again. I squat a lot, my deadlift goes up. I deadlift a lot, my squat goes up. Depending on what I want to improve, it all depends on the exercise that I'm doing. So my intuition, what I came into this whole program, Bulgarian system, high specificity, was on the premise that if you want to get good at shooting a basketball, you shoot a basketball. If you want to get good at squatting, you squat. And I did squat a lot. Basically a full year of trying to do max singles every single day, waiting for these adaptations to occur. I ended up hitting the brick wall a few times when my body was rebelling against my method. Pain in the hip. And it always used to manifest itself in the right pocket, right, pants pocket. That TFL region, pain. Is it the hip? Is it the hip? Is it the hip? And then over time, as I was beating around the bush, I realized that any sort of pulling seems to improve it. And then I would go to a deadlift every day scenario and I'm really improved. And I start really improving. That allows me to put more emphasis on the squat because I'm pain-free. I can put more volume into it. And then my deadlift goes up. So I'm practicing deadlifting with low volume, high frequency, but putting all of my proper volume into the squat. And I was expecting the squat to go up, but no. What happened was the deadlift was going up. So I was just practicing the deadlift as a movement, basically greasing the groove with it, or whatever you want to call it. Several times a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I did that, work up to a heavy single, a training max. That was enough to keep my hips in balance, my knees in balance, so I can put some proper volume in the squat. Deadlift goes up. So now I'm like, okay, in the last week or so, I've done sumos, sets of 5, sets of 3s, various different percentages, and also conventionals, still practicing that movement, making sure it's a crisp movement pattern in my brain, but putting the volume into the sumos because they're just so cheap to me because the bar is so light. It's a weird position for me, so I'm just like, I can just smash that out, put some good volume in and get better at the sumo. And what I'm noticing is I'm getting more and more comfortable in the squat again. It's like a law, a biomechanical law for me that I'm seeing. And it's weird. It's weird and it's anti-intuitive to me. In order for you to get good at shooting, dribble the basketball. So I'm doing something that's related to what I'm doing, but it's not the exact same thing, and I'm finding carryover, really good carryover. I find that really interesting, and it starts to remind me of, I just really want to grow that plant, and I just want to grab those leaves and grab that stem and really stretch the hell out of it. I want it to grow, but no, what you need to do is feed it. And some of these feeder exercises, they seem like you're not really doing what you need to be doing, but they're feeding and making it grow in a certain way. It's an interesting thing to me, and I try to draw some of these conclusions from other areas of the world, other disciplines, other ideas, and it seems to be that it's kind of like a circle. The more I do the deadlift, the better the squat gets. The more I do the squat, the better the deadlift gets. Recently I've done RDLs, I've done good mornings. Now I'm doing these sumos. I end up doing sumo good mornings, and so now I've kind of like stopped doing sumo good mornings because I'm focusing so much on just sumos off the floor. I feel like it's an easier thing to set up, and I feel like it's easier to get out of it. Still, I'm kind of heavily hip hinging it. It's not a lot of knee flexion at all. And it's kind of doing the work for me in the last few days. And it's making me feel really, really good in my hips. Today I wanted to try out, but I forgot about it. I reminded myself in the car. I brought my dip belt. You guys will see I ended up doing a whole bunch of dips and pull-ups. But I brought my dip belt, and I was going to attach that belt into this gym has a belt squat machine. All I was going to do there is just load it up a little bit and do marching, literally marching, or I don't know what Louis calls it, but basically just step up and down. I don't know what to call it. Basically working the hips. So you don't squat, you don't deadlift, you don't do anything. You just walk. You're just walking on this thing, just one leg at a time. You raise it ever so gently, and what that's going to do is hit that lateral hip, glute med, glute min, maybe the TFL, adductors possibly, I'm not sure, but he trains the hips. And so sumo deadlifting, if I've ever known for anything, it's a hip thing. And so Louis said it basically, and it kind of hit me on the head. If you can't sumo deadlift, you have weak hips. I can't even get into these positions, man. A weak muscle is a tight muscle. I have weak, I can't, I'm very uncomfortable in that position. So I'm doing it every day. I'm not burning it out every day, but I'm just make sure my body understands that this is a position that we want to be comfortable in. Shooting my free throws. That's what I'm doing with this. And that in turn is making me feel very comfortable in that narrow squat position. Now, all of this sumo deadlifting is making my top end strength in conventional deadlifting really weak. Today I struggled to hit 230, felt off, felt weak, no leg drive. But that makes sense because I'm doing a lot of squatting. So I'm doing lots of light sumo deadlifting, which is making my hips feel really nice so I can do lots of heavy back squatting. So in my mind, it's like this. I spoke about the UV light, water, carbon dioxide, making oxygen and making glucose in the plant. And then some animal comes and eats that glucose and it makes energy, blah, 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 ATP. All that stuff, it's like a circle. That animal dies, decomposes, all those nutrients going back into the ground, grass grows, trees grows, all sorts of things grow out of that. And voila, here we go again. Right now, man, this is what I've got. This is my circle of the gym. Sumos make my squats better. Squats make my deadlift better. Deadlifts make my sumo better. Sumos, and here we go again, make squats better. Squats make deadlifts better. Deadlifts make sumos better. Why do deadlifts make my sumos better? Well, ultimately, the primary deadlift, the conventional deadlift for me, it's a lot of damn weight. And so when I have 265 in my hands, that feels freaking heavy. But when I grab that 160 kilos sumo deadlift in my hands, I'm like, this is so damn light. It's so damn light. So in effect, that big conventional has helped my sumo because my central nervous system is like, this is really light for half of my body. The spinal erectors are like, this is easy, man. The groin, the adductors, the lateral hip muscles, they're struggling with it. But this is how the deadlift, the conventional deadlift, has helped my sumo. And then I get into these sumo positions and do that whole bunch of volume. And now my groin and hip flexors and all of that stuff is feeling fantastic. I get into a back squat position, I'm laughing. One of the big reasons why I love this thing that I'm doing right now, documenting, searching, studying movements, human movements in this background of, squatting, trying to get better at squatting, is I'm finding these patterns, finding these close relationships between certain movement patterns and basically studying them. So in my mind, I'm always looking for these patterns. Okay, so I'll do a whole bunch of sumo deadlifts, I'll do a whole bunch of squatting, and I'll do a whole bunch of single, heavy, conventional deadlifts. There's my program. So the core philosophy there is, I want to squat, but there needs to be certain things that happen for the squat to happen. It's a kind of weird thing. And that foolish Ivan back in the day who thought you can just do one movement only, and everything will be taken care of. It won't work. I know that for a fact, that you can't just do one exercise. At least you can't do the back squat. No matter what you do, you can't do that and just excel at it. And we see that all the time. We see it all the time. We see guys excelling in some of these movements who have come from different fields, are not even doing this damn exercise, but those fields, which whatever body movements they're doing, are making them excel in this thing that we call the primary squat, deadlift, bench. It's an interesting thing, We spoke about surfers. We spoke about climbers. We spoke about calisthenic athletes, how they have like this weird knack of just deadlifting 2 times body weight the first day. That's an abnormal thing, man. Not all the people just walk in the gym and do 2 times body weight deadlift. My best friends, man, they don't train. I don't imagine my cameraman coming in here and deadlifting 160 kilos or 140 kilos. No way, man. He could not do that. So whatever they're doing in the calisthenics world, in the climbing world, is benefiting them, even though they're neither my cameraman or that calisthenic athlete are doing the deadlifts. However, one is performing the other, outperforming the other. So that's an interesting thing. There's a pattern to be studied there. There's something to be learned there. There's something to be extrapolated there. Okay, so let's do upper back work, man. Let's hit those dips, pull-ups, various different ways. Let's do those flags. Let's do the front levers. Let's do the planche. Let's do all that because something is happening. And then you can take that and run with that. Okay, so what out of all these calisthenics movements, which movement pattern is doing the most amount of work? What's really doing the work here? I want to do that. I mean, that could be a whole journey yourself. You can take that shit to 1,000 days as well. So there's many different things to do. But for me, it all started with my love for squatting. That's it. And ever since then, I've become to be on this journey, uncovering certain things. The sumo feels good. Now, the way I do the sumo is not how the sumo should be done. The way I'm doing the sumo is basically like a stiff-legged sumo, which Louis said was really good for glutes, for lower back and hamstrings. So I'm doing that. So I'm not trying to sit back and use my quads. Nah, man. I'm basically using my lateral hips and adductors and lower back. That's what I feel. But when I do that and I go back to squatting and go back to the narrow stance, oh my God, the narrow stance feels like I'm on a holiday. It feels like I'm on a holiday, man, because I'm not being split open with this stance. I feel comfortable. I feel insulated. I feel poppy. Man. Jumping out of, like, I feel like I could jump. I feel like I want to be more athletic. It's really weird because I used to have this belief. I used to believe that a sumo stance is unathletic. There's nothing we do in society. We don't jump. We don't sprint. We don't turn, we don't do things on a basketball court or a football field. So I was thinking in that position. We most often found ourselves in a conventional position. Narrow stance, that's how we run, that's how we jump, that's how we do these things. Yet if we do the sumo, we make the narrow stronger. How weird is that, man? How weird is that? I love it. I love it. I would like to thank Will Emre. He's the latest guy on the list here on Patreon. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the support. It means a lot. It's honestly, it's a great feeling. I have to admit, it's a great feeling to see, almost feels like every day now, new names popping up on the list, supporting this crazy guy that's fallen in love with human movement, squatting and trying to make sense of it all, and just kind of working it out and showing the working out to you guys, man. That's all I'm doing. Like I said many times before, there's nothing I want to keep away from you guys because the way Louis said it as well, he said it the best. I used to tell my competitors everything I know so they can get better, so they can threaten being better than me, so then it forces me. I'm not sure what happened there. The phone decided to cut me out. But what I was trying to say is me improving you guys, offering everything I have will improve you, and you will process that information and give something back to me. And so it's like two minds are better than one trying to work this out, because ultimately all I really want to do is get better at squatting and understand the processes. So there's no reason for me to keep anything away, and this is what I love doing. I make these videos, you guys hear them, you process them with your experiences, your understanding, and you write a comment, you share some ideas with me, and that further facilitates my thinking, and it's like a win-win situation. I love that stuff, and that's what I feel like this community is good for. It's incredible. So I want to thank you, Will, for that, and I will thank everyone else in the Patreon list, YouTube comments, Instagram. It means the world to me to have this community behind me. Appreciate you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.